Welcome back to the channel. We are live. Cody may or may not join me today. He's on his way up here, but it is a nasty weather here in Washington, so we will see. Today's core topic, before we get into the question section, is going to be very specific. It's going to be on the shortcut on exactly how to build anything creative finance. There's a few simple steps, but we're going to share those here on the live so that everyone knows how to do that. I'm going to wait for a few people to get into the chat, and then we will kick it off. While we wait, some updates. The Robin Hood Village Resort has our big event. It's going to be November 10th, 11th, and 12th, with the main day being on the 11th. You guys can attend that anytime. Well, not anytime. It'll be specific to the 11th. But we can do you can do a day pass for that. We're going to have some fantastic speakers. It's going to be about 50% Cody and I speaking and 50% other speakers. But the whole conference is going to be about creative finance, so stay tuned for that. From the chat, hello, and hey to you. But yeah, that event's coming up. Our 22 unit is getting the last few holdover people out of it because they were on month-to-month leases as a hotel. So our conversion project will be starting. So stay tuned for more updates on that. And Robin Hood is bumping along. So excited to see a lot of people down there. I know there's a lot of people who actually watch this channel who are going to be attending the event. If you want to stay for all 3 days, book a cabin now. It's going to be the 10th, 11th, and 12th. Whole bunch of fun stuff if you book a cabin. If you want to just come for the day, again, you can do that. But there's 3 cabins left. So if you want to stay for the whole thing, absolutely do that. You can check it out on robinhoodvillageresort.com on the events page. Now, for the main topic of the day, we're going to dive right in. So how do you create a finance your way to any goal? One of the first things you have to do, and most important thing you have to do, is you actually have to identify that goal. That can take a week to a month. Don't take forever on it. But come up with, okay, what is it that I really want to do? So what I wanted to do was buy enough real estate to retire my wife from teaching and move to Texas. I just got out of the meeting where we're building the house in Texas. So also have updates on that to come on our channel. Be down in Texas next month doing the final design work. But that is underway, and that is getting developed. Retired my wife after 11 months of real estate investing. All I had to do for the goal was set up, okay, what is it that I'm trying to do? And what is that going to cost on a monthly basis for me to replace her income, to replace my income, and to live comfortably? That was a minimum of $15,000 a month. That is where I'm making, essentially, that was setting it to my average commission when I was a CoStar rep. So I took my best months, which were 20,000, took a little bit off that and said, hey, if I made close to that every month, like my best commission sales rep months, I'm probably going to do okay. And if we can convert that to passive income, that's what we're going to do. So there's the goal. Now you're going to identify who has done exactly what it is that you want to do. So for me, and in the area that you want to do it. So for me, we're getting some traction in Grant County. I just bought my second duplex over there. Ran out of money and went, okay, so who has built a huge portfolio here and how do we learn how to do this? Enigma X, what's up to you? But we were going, how to do this. I'm going to put together owner meetings. How do you meet with these people? Well, this is going to be very simple. We look on Google Maps. That's it. Magical map with every single property. To get enough real estate, I'm going to see who has enough real estate to cash flow that much money. And how do we meet with them? So we'd call, I'd communicate a simple goal, trying to retire my wife from teaching. It's the middle of 2020. There's no mystery on why we're doing that. Okay, so I want to hit that goal. Eventually want to move to a warmer state, building the portfolio here, and a relatable point. I am also an owner here. I just own a little duplex. When you reach out, a lot of these people, by the way, you reach out and they're used to being blown up for people asking for a sale. That is not the purpose of this. So when I would call and say, hey, you have this beautiful 12-plex here. How do I get into something like it? Well, a lot of people's immediate answer is, well, I'm not selling. In my case, that's excellent news. I don't have any money, don't know how I'd buy it. Here's what I'm trying to do. Trying to retire my wife from teaching, want to move to Texas. When I get that done, my wife has the freedom to do what she wants to do. She is an amazing woman. Teaching is just awful at that time, politically in Washington State in general, but especially in Seattle. Most people understood that. So here's the goal, here's the cost, here's how I'm trying to do it. That should take about 45 seconds, and that's where you book a meeting with those people. Next step. You get to the coffee meeting. Your goal is to communicate in 45 seconds or less what it is you're trying to do. So who you are, what you're trying to accomplish, why it's important. 45 seconds. The rest of it is talking to them about how they built what they built. I'm not going to get into every single piece of the conversation, but in a 30-minute to an hour conversation with someone, there's a very important question you need to ask there near the back end. It's, okay, given my pieces and how you built what you built, what would you do next in my position? Then you do that. So for Cody and I, one of the first acquisitions that he did was a 12plex. I later bought into it. When we were bought into this 12plex, the owner said, "Hey, this is what I do. You don't have the money for it right now, but when you do, you want to put a pitched roof on it." It had something called butterfly roofs. It's roofs that essentially go in with a little valley that drains water. Problem, it's an area that gets some heavy snow in the winter. So you'll get these ice dams, and the whole roof will just hold a ton of standing water when the snow melts. That causes some huge problems. So he's like, what you do is you buy them, you want to stabilize the rents, and you want to save up and wait until you can afford to optimize the property. And this is where we got that whole method of buy, stabilize, optimize, and then eventually pay off the debt, which is what that individual did. What a lot of people miss is you get that takeaway. Even if you go out and apply it, you don't go back to the first person and just say, "Thank you for teaching me this. I did apply it." This is what it looks like. For this relationship, we actually brought him out to the property, looked at the pitch roof, and it was about a year after that, he reached out and said, "You know what? I'm getting out of real estate. I've done what I need to do. I've made the money I need to make. I would like to seller finance everything I have to you guys," which is quite a bit, over the next 3 years. Seller financed, 10% down, low interest. That is how these things happen. This is the method. So I'm going to summarize it in a few points here. So one, you have to identify your goal and what it actually costs to get there. Otherwise, people don't build a big enough business, or they overbuild and never get to the other phases where you stabilize, optimize, and pay off the debt. So you really need to know, what is it that I want to accomplish and what does that actually cost? Step one. Step two, identify the people who already done what you want to do in the market that you want to do it in. In my case, I'm trying to do this in real estate. This works for everything, creative finance, not just real estate. But we go, okay, what is it that we're actually trying to do? Let's go meet those people. Learn how to have a darn coffee meeting. Too many people don't know how to do this, and it's so much easier than grinding the phones, knocking on doors, sending letters. You're getting coffee with another human, and you're talking about them and their business. Easy to do. If you can knock that out and then apply what they teach you and then come back to them, that is where you build the relationship and the trust to where they'll actually finance more to you than you think. Or they'll give you connections that you needed. Could be a lawyer, could be a property manager, could be capital. But these are the people and the connections you need to move forward because they've already built what you're trying to build. From that point, there's one more thing that you need to know, which is we're buying these on long-term cash flowing fixed rate debt. When you get to the deal, it always goes deal, then debt, then equity. But when you get to the deal, figure out a debt product that is long-term, that allows you to cash flow, that hits all the objections from the seller. It's why we love creative finance. In a bank, they'll tell you what the terms are. You can only negotiate price. On these deals, you can write a deal that exactly matches what that person who you have a relationship with, exactly what it is they want to do, under the parameters of, hey, I need to hold this thing, I need to buy it, and I need to never lose it. So how do I structure debt around that? When you can write your own debt product, the price is not the only thing. In fact, it's not even the main thing. Figure out those pieces. You can now seller finance your way towards whatever that initial goal was. But that is step by step exactly how I do it. Now, as always, we're going to dive into questions. We'll answer questions. By we, I mean me, unless Cody shows up here in the next few minutes. But I'm going to be answering questions for you guys until we run out of questions. We'll do a last call, and then we'll call it a Wednesday afternoon. Just going into the chat right now. Post your questions, by the way. I'm amped today, so let's answer some real estate. From Nico though, hit your boy Caleb up since you told me last live stream, exchange numbers, but hard to get a hold of him. Reach out again. Caleb's actually usually pretty easy to get a hold of. Try one more time, especially if you guys are exchange numbers. Shoot him a text. Caleb's pretty responsive. Sometimes he gets caught up in projects because, like us, he's very busy. But seriously, people like Caleb or Ethan Wilson in our mentorship group who came through, bought a lot of real estate on multifamilystrategy.com. There's a ton of them. A lot of these guys are movers and shakers. They're buying big buildings. Ethan just bought a 24 unit. Caleb just bought a 25 unit. I know Ethan's working on a 32. Caleb's working on another 12. But these are people who would love to connect. So Enigma, keep trying. He's usually pretty easy to get a hold of. Sold by Hobbs. In the first meeting, do you explicitly say your desired path to ownership is seller financed multifamily or simply invest in multifamily? So far, I've left it out talking with owners. That is an Excellent question. Okay. The financing doesn't matter. And so you're doing a good job leaving it out. And here's the reason why. You know how we always say deal, then debt, then equity? We don't know that seller financing is the exact right way to take out the deal before we know what the deal is. And it could be perfect for conventional financing. Say that they're willing to sell it way below market rate. You may not need crazy terms, and you don't know their goals yet. Their goals may be to be cashed out. You don't know what they're trying to do. They could be trying to 1031 into something bigger. Oftentimes, the people who want to seller finance, and this is not always by any means, but they're doing well financially. They have money, so they don't need a big cash out event. They've paid off or at least have low debt on the property they have right now, where your down payment's going to pay off the rest of the property. And they're in a position where they can finance. There are some huge tax advantages to doing so. Your job's not to sell them on that. Your job is just to underwrite the deal. So when someone brings a deal to me, it sounds, if you just open with like, hey, I'm trying to buy stuff seller finance, it sounds like, hey, I have no money and I'm not capable of playing the game conventionally. And that may or may not be true. It depends on the deal in front of you. So what you want to communicate, someone says, hey, I have a deal. Awesome. Tell me about the deal. Let's talk. Tell me a story. They'll tell you about the property. It's 12 units, brick exteriors, a mix of 1 and 2 beds. Awesome. How's leasing? Is it fully occupied? Then they get back with, well, it's a 10 unit, 9 units are occupied. Okay, excellent. Any major deferred maintenance items? Anything that I need to be aware of? They'll let you know that. Okay. How would you like us to take this out? Is this going to be a conventional purchase, or are you open to carrying a contract? Those are your talking points. Keep it super simple. Just keep it, it doesn't have to be specific. You're not selling anyone on anything here. And I don't want to tell them, hey, I need this to be seller finance, because I don't know that yet. Even if it's conventional, we can take a look at it. And if it doesn't work conventionally, I can get right back to them same day and say, hey, look, I worked on this. If you guys want this price or you guys want this amount of cash out, it's not going to happen through a bank. I ran it through my banker, and I will do that. I'll send it over to my bankers and say, what do you guys think? If it doesn't work or it's not going to be the right debt product, you just reach right back out and you go, hey, here's where I'm at. I can get you your price. We may need to carry a contract on this. This is what that would look like. If we want it to be in bank debt, this is what the bank is indicating it's going to need to look like. But that is how that conversation flow rolls. Excellent question. I'm glad that you're not just throwing out seller financing, because it's almost like putting a big billboard on your head that says, hello, I'm broke. It's not an opener. It's fine if you don't have money, but they want to see that you're engaged in the deal. Set the hook, be interested, learn what the opportunity is, and then you'll try to match up the debt product. Atticus. My state's county website has a regulation called the Daniels Law. It prohibits from sharing property owners' information. Is there another way to find owners' information besides the county website? Absolutely, there is. And there's a few places in the U.S. where that is the case. There's disclosure and non-disclosure states. It's hit and miss on what you're getting. So when you are finding that owner's contact information, you should be able to find LLCs. It may not have the specific owner who owns the LLC everywhere, but it should be pretty easy to find an LLC. If it's not, on the public tax assessor's website, which is rare, you need a relationship with literally any broker with MLS access, because every MLS access point does have owner information in the system. People need to be able to contact owners about certain things. It may just be on the LLC level, but then you go into the normal funnel. Once you get that LLC, you look up the officers in the LLC. If you can't find them, you type in that LLC name and the city that you own the property in and the word phone number, and you keep going down the rabbit trail. If you end up with a partial phone number with, like, say, the last 4 digits, add those last 4 digits to your search. So this LLC, the word phone number, and the amount of digits you have in the phone number, you'd be amazed how fast you'll find that phone number. It's a little bit of sleuthing, but you just keep getting clues, pumping them in the search engine. When you get good at this, it's like 4 to 5 minutes to find literally anyone's contact information. Consistently, it's about 19 out of 20 times we're looking for contact information, we can find it in 5 minutes or less. Takes a little practice. Sold by Hobbs, right on, helps a lot. Sounds kosher to keep this ambiguous way longer into the deal than I expected. Yeah, the nice thing with the seller financing, when you bring up that term, is the seller financing terms are always custom. if you don't know enough about the deal, it also doesn't make sense. Because if you're coming to me with the question, you say I'm selling a building, like, hey, would you be open to carrying a contract? If you open with that, the only reason you would ever need me to carry a contract is if you have no money, because you don't know the terms of the deal. However, if I put a deal out where I go, hey, this is my goal. The reason I'm selling is I want to. Let's say I open with this. I want to roll into bigger buildings. I'm probably going to do a 1031 exchange. Well, seller financing is probably not going to be a direction you go with that conversation, because I am looking for cash out to roll. Now, maybe I'll hold a small contract, maybe 10, 20%. Maybe there's room for a contract. But if I just open with, are you open to seller financing? You don't have enough inputs to know that that's the right solution for me. So you want to have a conversation about the deal first. And when I know that we're interested and you're interested in the property, I'm much more likely to want to work with you on the how. If you start with, hey, there's a deal, and your opening is, how am I doing this? It's like, well, do you want to know what it is you're buying first? So keep it in order. I'm glad that that makes sense. But see here, I have one question left. So anyone else who has questions, let's get them in the chat soon. Otherwise, this will be a shorter live. From Clalix01, how do you refinance a deal that didn't make sense with a conventional loan? Why will the bank lend now? Do you have to wait 12 months to be able to refi? Excellent, excellent question. All right. So if it's not bankable right off the bat, I have a perfect example for this. Our first ever deal, 38 Plex. We share this one all the time, but it is literally perfect for this. $2 million, horrible collections. 38 units bringing in $5,000 in Washington State. They had like 10 vacancies and 10 non-pays. Insane. Not bankable. So it depends on your deal. As always, deal to net equity. You figure out the project to the deal. In this one, we had to solve the collections before I could bring it to a bank. It took us 11 months. We took it to bank debt. We bought it $300,000 down, which we raised. Our first bank loan, we pulled out $400,000. And then we used the money that we pulled out to improve more of the units and to do a new set of, like, just brand new siding. And then after that new siding, what did we do? We refinanced again and pulled out another $300,000, which is doing the rest of our renovation. So you can refi, pull out money, refi, pay off debt, refi, improve the building, refi again. You can pull money in and out. You can change your position on it. So you have to have a specific plan for the property. It has to be refinanceable. Sometimes you'll buy a property where it's at 50% of market rents, and your whole project is, what do we need to do to get it within 85% of market rents? Because once it's there, it's valued on the income. It's going to be worth more. You can refinance the property from that point. So that's why the bank will lend now. Stable books. And in answer to the term, 12 months is usually your minimum. I have worked with banks who are just fine with 6 months of books, but it's because they already work with me. We have quite a track record, so they're willing to bet on our track record that, hey, if these guys got 6 months of stable books, they can continue on. A general rule of thumb, at least 12 months of well-kept stable books is a good thing to have on hand. Even if they started unbalanced and you balance them through the thing, if you can show that progression, you're going to get bank loans. One thing to remember, you're gonna have the option to borrow at a higher loan to value the longer you have books. If you have 6 months of books, they're probably going to want to lend somewhere around 60% loan to value. Whereas with 2 years of stable books, you're looking closer to 70. So you can pull more money out the longer you have those books. Important to know. From Dividend Dave, yo, and yo to you, my friend. Good to see you on the video. Vince, how would you seller finance a portfolio zero down? Well, first you would ask. It really does depend on the deal. So a great example is, because I haven't done any large portfolios, but I have done smaller portfolios, multiple property sales that are 5% down, actually 4.5% down. So basically zero. It's going to be someone who you have a relationship typically, because they're going to trust you as the operator. Typically, if they're going zero down, they either really do not need any money down, but then that begs the question, like, okay, well, if they have no skin in the game, they have no risk, are they going to pay attention to my project? Zero down is typically going to be they trust you as an operator, or it's going to be a property that is truly underperforming that needs a lot of work. That's a pretty easy pitch to land often, because if you say there's a bunch of CapEx needed, you can actually put together a contract. This is a great example where you go, okay, I have X period of time to complete these projects. And so your note is actually dependent on you hitting certain benchmarks. They do this all the time in development. So you can put something in your creative contract that says, hey, it's zero down. And the reason it's zero down is because I'm going to be putting X amount of money into renovations, or I'm doing these projects that will take this much time. You can actually make your note contingent on you doing those projects. And if I'm the seller and I don't want to do these projects, say it needs a new roof, or you need to get some nasty tenants out of there, or non-pay situations, whatever it is that you're fixing, usually zero down is someone who is very wealthy who doesn't need the money, or you're fixing a major problem. And by you doing that, their worst case scenario is you default, they take back a better property than they sold you. So it depends on the collateral. A lot of people like to see some skin in the game, but that's where you see a lot of the zero down stuff. High net worth, or a great track record where there is trust that you're going to knock this out, or you're solving a serious problem that you can justify needing the capital for. From Chris, trying to find a good lawyer in my area to help write contracts and a good eviction attorney. What kind of qualifying questions would you ask to make sure they're competent and experienced? The main thing by far, they own real estate. Like, seriously, I've used CPAs who don't own a lot of real estate, and they can't do the books for what I do. They don't know how to take it out. It's not in their wheelhouse. It's not their specialty. They haven't done it for themselves. You want to work with people who've done something somewhat similarly to you in their investment portfolio. That is true for lawyers. That is true for accountants. That is true for property managers. Attorneys are generally awful. I have one good one. I've gone through a lot of bad ones. In Grant County, my evictions attorney, he's the best one that anyone can find in town, and he's still terrible. So it depends on where you're at and what you can do. But the best way to find these people is, again, and this is always my answer to things, so sorry if it sounds repetitive, but it's the truth. The real answer is you find almost everyone through the relationships that you form. That's why it's so important to find people who know what you want to do. I'll go to those original owners who got us into the game, and we'll go ahead and ask them, who are you using for evictions? Writing a contract, you have a preferred person. Who do you guys like using for note servicing? All those service providers, that is where you find them. From OB, since you're moving on to bigger deals, do you have any fourplexes that you're willing to carry a contract on? No, and the reason is because we're not on the part where we have hammered the debt. There's 4 cycles. There's your build phase, your stabilize, your optimize, your debt pay down. Now, seller financing, we have to have equity to finance. We hold on our portfolio about 60% loan to value right now, a little sub. It's closer to 55. So we have a great equity position. However, we can't finance that equity because there's current debt on it. You'd have to do at least 60% down to clear that note. In addition, we are still building and ramping up on a lot of our projects. So if I was going to sell something, and I am open to selling one of my triplexes actually, so I do have smaller buildings that we could sell, I wouldn't do a seller finance note because I would use that capital to either repair one of my larger buildings or pay off debt somewhere else in my portfolio. We are at the cash part of our journey. Typically, you're going to be working on seller financing with people who played the game a lot longer, who have a more mature portfolio. While Cody and I have amazing cash flow and we have a large portfolio, 2 years is not the time it takes to pay off, a $30 million portfolio that has about, $18, $19 million of debt. That takes a second to roll down. Once we optimize, we'll start hammering those. We'll pay off the smaller properties. We're probably about 5 years from being in a position where we even could carry a contract on anything with a reasonable down payment. Though that is the obvious disposition. Your only 2 things when you go to sell is either 1031 into bigger things, or you convert them into contracts. From Xylon, what kind of neighborhoods do you buy in? Is it good neighborhoods with old homes that need a refresh? Well, first of all, I don't buy homes. I don't buy single families at all. We don't flip. It's all going to be multifamily deals, which is more where you look for that old home thing. The next acquisition Cody and I are doing is with an investor who builds in cash. He's a developer. He's selling his stuff. It's going to be a 2017 build, 3-bed, 2-bath unit. Stainless steel appliances, stone countertops, 10-foot ceilings or 9-foot ceilings, the whole 9 yards. It is buy the goal, because we buy a lot of stuff that's Class C that needs a lot of renovation as well. But the goal is to buy the nicest assets you can that cash flow on long term fixed rate debt. That is how we play the game. So the neighborhoods we buy in, not as important as the markets that we're buying in. Now, if you're in a terrible neighborhood and you aren't buying enough real estate to fix the whole area, probably don't buy there. That's going to be a best practice. You want to buy in decent locations. Vince definitely agreed. Any recommendation on where to find a private lender? If you're just looking for like private hard money, Google is a fantastic place because it's a marketing heavy business. You can do that. The other obvious answer is figure out where investors around you in that market, the other owners, where did they pull their hard money or private capital loans for? If you're looking for individuals, that's going to be your network. And a lot of times, again, it's those owners in those markets who've been playing the game longer. Not only can they sell or finance, a lot of them have a lot of money because that's what happens if you hold a portfolio for a long period of time. That is why we're so big on buy and hold. If you hold it for a long time, you have quite a bit of capital at your disposal. What is your pitch for subject to deals? Oh, I have a great pitch for those. Never ever do them. Subject to is a terrible clause. So it's part of a thing that it's called contract for deed. So you don't do it in seller financing, but a fairly similar thing is contract for deed. Cody and I do a reasonable amount of this. The contract for deed, not seller finance, or sorry, not subject to. So subject to means subject to the existing debt. First of all, you will get destroyed if you try to do this on a commercial loan. The bank will call it due. You will lose the asset, period. Commercial debt, it is this close to bank fraud trying to pull that off. You do not leave someone else's name on your commercial property. So if you're buying in an LLC or you're buying a property that is 5 units and up, absolutely off limits. Do not touch it. You will get you will get destroyed by the bank, and you better be able to write that check. Now, a problem with single family investments or anything residential that's 1 to 4 units with subject to, the reason that it worked for some people on subject to deals is because the bank's not calling those loans typically, because interest rates went down a lot over a 10-year period. So, for example, the bank has a loan at 5%. You assume that loan and you keep it in the other person's name and you just keep paying the mortgage. It is callable. However, why would a bank look into that? Because if they had to replace that money, they're replacing it at 3%. It is against their best interest, and banks want to put money out and keep it out. Their goal is to place capital. However, in today's market, imagine this. You are doing subject to, and you're like, oh, I love their debt product. I'm going to keep their 3% loan in place. And we're going to go ahead and set up a note servicing company. We'll do all the insurances, but we're going to set this up the best we can so that I'm going to keep paying their mortgage and keep their existing mortgage in place. If I'm a bank, I'm going to do a title search on everything because I can take that 3% loan and I can absolutely hammer it by saying, hey, it's due, or we need to refinance this into a 8% loan product, which is the current market. If I'm a bank and I can take my 3% notes and turn them into 8% notes simply by calling a clause that I have every right to call, those notes are going to get called. And what we're seeing this year is more deals done subject to or being called than ever before, because it is now financially in the bank's best interest to do so. So that is my pitch for for subject to, is never do subject to. It doesn't make sense on a risk standpoint to the banks. And if you are trying to scale a portfolio and buy anything larger than a fourplex, that is going to get called so incredibly quickly. If you ever go to refinance it, also going to get called. Subject to is, it's not illegal. By the way, you can do subject to. It is just not a winning strategy to model off of. Emmanuel, can you explain the process of how you dealt with non-pays and the homeless camp on the 38 unit? Yes, homeless camp. It was hard because they were actually they were siphoning our property's power, but they were right on the adjacent property. So they were camping right over the property line, which means I can't call the police and get them off in Washington State. Ridiculous. All I could do is continue to come by, and every time they would literally they cut the power cord to one of our security lights, and they would take a actual just extension cord and wrap the the raw wire around the extension cord. It's super dangerous. So what I would do is I'd come up, I would unplug it, and I would cut the wire. And then they would try it again, and I'd come back, cut the wire. I did that for a while. What ended up happening is we coordinated with the neighbors next door to get rid of the homeless camp, and they were more than happy to help because they were just about to develop that lot. Today, there's 88 homes built on that big lot, so we ended up with a good neighbor. It can be difficult. You have to make it inconvenient. The other thing that we did is we put up a stone wall around our property. That is also gorgeous. So now we have this closed off, pretty community, and homeless can't just wander in from the from the adjacent developable lots. So that's how we got rid of the homeless camp. For the non-pays, this still works, by the way, but we had the best time ever. 2020 to 2022. People stopped paying. Government just printed money for it. So we went to the government. We filled out the application for everyone. All they have to do is sign it. So you can actually apply for housing relief for your tenants as long as you get them to sign it. So we basically knocked on the doors and said, look, you haven't applied for housing assistance. We want you to live here and you don't need to pay. The government will do so. You don't even have to fill out the darn form. You need to sign your name right here, and we will go to bat for you to try to get your past due covered and get you a few months into the future. It's a little bit slower now. There's not as much relief money because it's not all the COVID programs, but there are government programs for people who are sincerely behind. If you have a collections issue, new ownership, people know evictions are coming in the pipeline, and you don't want to do evictions. You want to receive rent. So the pitch is basically, hey, we're not trying to get rid of you. We're not trying to disrupt housing. We want to help. This is what you need to do. Sign your name here and let us get you out. And it works most of the time. And this is states all over the country. It's like actually an advantage of the lame states, the blue states, the ones that hate landlords. They have a lot of programs that help protect the tenants. And so you can actually work within that system to get a lot of government money. And that really helps with non-pays. It works in every state, but it's actually a huge advantage of landlord adverse states is you can take advantage of the fact that the state's programs want to help tenants, which is a good thing for everyone. So sorry, I try not to be political on this channel. I tend to lean a little bit more, on a business standpoint on the conservative side, being a business owner. However, it is a huge advantage in blue states because you have an easier path to receiving money for people who believe they don't need to pay the rent. Government will pay it for them because they agree. Vince, does someone have to be free and clear of a mortgage to seller finance? Yes, you can finance anything that you own, which means you can finance your equity. We've actually had properties that had debt on them where we called and we said, hey, we can't buy this without a contract. Just the way that the pricing was. Are you willing to carry a contract? Their answer was, well, we have debt, so we can't. Well, now I have the cash for it. I'll actually just pay off the debt and seller finance. So they paid off $250,000 of debt to seller finance $1 million property to us. Otherwise, you can pay off the debt as part of the down payment. So say they have a high equity position, but they have 10% of the purchase is their debt. You're going to put at least 10% down, which is going to clear their existing mortgage. So to seller finance, you can only finance things that you actually own, and that is your equity in the property. From Claxo1, after coming to an agreement with the seller, do you do a handshake deal until you get your lawyer to draft up the paperwork, or do you write something up that you both sign? So a lot of people do what's called an LOI. It's a letter of intent. We hate those. I don't do them. There's actually a lot of courses out there that just like the whole thing is rip out letters of intent. You need to be writing letters of intent every day. Get them going. Get them going. I hate that. If we have a deal, let's shake hands. Let's write it up. Let's just write up the deal. And if it needs to be adjusted or renegotiated, let's adjust the purchase and sale agreement. Because when I say I'm going to buy something and we shake on it, that is what we're writing up. We've actually had people offer seller finance terms. We shook on it. And then when we get to the deal, they try to renegotiate. Instantly blacklisted, won't do business with them. Those be the rules. I like working with people who I trust, especially in seller finance. Trust should go both ways because they're going to be a party to the deal. They're going to play lender. They're going to be, they're not really a partner, but they are a member and have a vested interest in the success of your property and your ability to make the mortgage payment. So if everyone does what they say they do, we'll march forward. That is how I like doing deals. It is we'll have the discussion, we'll shake hands, and we'll write it up in a purchase and sale agreement. That's a great question, and that is one where a lot of people disagree with us. There are very few courses, like we talk about this all the time on multifamilystrategy.com, the course and mentorship. There's a lot of courses out there. They say letter of intent, letter of intent, letter of intent. We strongly disagree, And I think our transaction volume speaks to the fact that people trust that we'll do what we shake on. And we've even done things where it's like, oh, we shouldn't have shook on that, but we shook on it, so we're going to close it. Um, Rules of the game for us. How much time after coming to an agreement with a seller do you have to close? Is it agreed upon time to come up with the rest of the money? Inspection, for example, 30 days. Depends on the deal size, depends on the capital raise. On a big deal like the Robinhood, we had 90 days. It's time to suss out the deal, learn the operations. Cody lived on site for a month just to figure out like the day to day. Then we had to do $1 million raise, which took like 7 minutes. That was our fastest raise of all time, actually. Actually, the bigger raises traditionally are easier to do than the smaller ones, just on a pitching basis, in case anyone was wondering. But typically on a bigger deal, it's going to be a longer timeline, or a more complicated deal will have a longer timeline. If you're using bank financing, right now the standard is 60 to 75 days because a lot of these bank loans are taking 60 days just to put through. They're a lot slower than they were. So if you're doing a commercial loan and you are buying conventionally, budget for 75 to 90 days. If you're doing seller financing, if you know where the money's coming from and you know the deal, you can close it in like 14 days. I just recommend 30 at the lowest, 60 is a standard. Emmanuel, ever had a flooding event? Oh my gosh, yes, we have. At any of your properties, 38 had one roof we knew was bad when we bought it. We had a tenant go on top of the roof to shovel snow off, which is such a ridiculous liability hazard. I can't believe they did that. I drove to the property and saw someone up on the roof. They damaged the living daylights out of our roof with that shovel and caused leaks in 3 units. That did a good deal of damage to the ceiling. We recently had a pipe burst underground at a property that flooded 1 unit. Floor had to be redone, and we actually had to have them cut through a large chunk of sidewalk to find and fix the pipe. Those can be a little bit pricey. Water and fire are the two things that will destroy everything they touch. You don't want water damage, but in our case, I think Cody and I haven't counted them in a while, but I believe we have somewhere in the ballpark of 40 total buildings because a lot of our buildings are multiple properties on one campus. Something to look for. So yeah, we have had the flooding events. They need to be fixed really quick. When you buy a property, 100% the first emergency thing you do, know where all your water shutoffs are. That is so important. Know how to shut off the water because you want to stop that as soon as humanly possible. Vince, I'm a new investor in the game, but have years as a loan originator. Should I start with smaller portfolios or would you go for the large ones? Depends on what you mean by smaller or larger. We really like the 20 to 50 unit buildings, though Cody started with 12 plexes. I love the 12 plexes. But anything commercial under 50 units is really where I would start. I've seen people try to go for the big, like, hey, first deal, I'm going to go for 75 to 100 units. And if you make a mistake at that level, it's usually an extra zero. It's hard to earn your way out of. The other stuff you can maneuver and move your pieces. For a few $1,000,000, you can figure it out. When you get into the 10, $20 million deals and you make a big mistake or you miscalculate, it's really costly. So if you're diving into the game, I think you can skip those steps of the single family to fourplex. Even though I start with a few duplexes, I know people who do it. And Cody and I still buy portfolios of duplexes all the time. I wouldn't go huge. I hate the people who are like, hey, first deal, buy a 200 unit, you're going to do great. You're not. You're going to make mistakes, and those mistakes are going to be amplified by a few zeros. Mid-size multifamily is a fantastic place to get started. You can always scale up, you can always scale back, but it's pretty comfortable, and most people can handle that. Emmanuel, probably a dumb question, but I've been through the multifamily course, and I was wondering if debt payments are included in the expense portion of NOI calculation. They are not. That is net operating income. So it's the cost to operate. The reason for this is NOI is uniform across all properties. Your debt is custom to you, but whoever the buyer is, the operating expenses are going to be the exact same. So you use NOI as a valuation for a property because it takes out the variable debt that is going to be unique to each individual and lets every investor evaluate on an even playing field. That is the reason for that. Now, when you're using a metric, this is why we love DSCR so much, debt service coverage ratio, is because you take the NOI, you add in debt, And that is a ratio that says how many times of your mortgage payment, after you make all your expenses and pay your mortgage, how much money is left over in proportion to that mortgage amount. And we like to say 50% of the mortgage, so a DSCR of 1.5%. That is a better metric if you're looking for long-term cash flow. That one matters to you. It matters to the bank. DSCR is important. NOI is only important when you get into the valuation, but that is why. Do you ask tenants to get renters insurance? Yes, that is required. In fact, in my property management company, it is in the rental agreement. If you do not have renters insurance or renters insurance drops, which I get noticed, by the way, people think they can sign up and then cancel. We get a notice immediately when that happens. You are auto enrolled in an insurance program through us. It's not that expensive, but it's in the lease that you'll actually automatically be enrolled at $10 a month into a a insurance program for tenants that partners with us. So no way around it. Calax, it seems seller financing that the seller would be vested in your success. Yes, they are. It would seem like they would be less likely to hide something or misrepresent numbers. You would think, but oh my gosh, I see so much of it. Guys, buyers are liars and sellers are worse. And brokers are the worst. Yes. They're the most worstest. Honesty is not something that I have seen a tremendous amount in this industry. You need to know that everyone lies. It is a bit of a liar's club. That is why due diligence is so important. So when you're putting together a deal, take everything for what it is, take the inputs you have, and that's how you write up the deal. Due diligence is so important for this reason. That's why you're going to match the bank statements to the stated income, to the leases. That's why you collect all these things. We cover that in depth in our course intentionally and on some of the YouTube channels. So check that out. But those due diligence docs are so important because you're going to verify everything. But I will tell you, we've got some major lies on deals because sometimes people just want to get it sold. They'll take your down payment and go, okay, property's moved, I'm out. If I have to take it back, I will. They should have a vested interest, and they do, but not everyone tells the truth. It's unfortunate. Vince, I've seen a portfolio of 17 houses in Ohio for 1.3 million. I want to get into this deal without tying in the broker. Okay. If it's listed, do not go around the broker. The owner paid the broker to do that. That would be an ethical dilemma to try to do so. That being said, if it's an off-market deal, then absolutely just go direct to owner. No reason to involve a broker. But I definitely do not go around a broker to try to cut them out because that is ethically not okay, and you're going to piss off the owner and the broker on the deal. They've signed a listing agreement. They're going to pay that agent fee no matter how they sell it. You're not going to get around the broker because there's going to be an actual agreement in place. Galaxy, exactly. Trust but verify. That is due diligence in a nutshell. From Noah, I've certainly been surprised with how much people will lie about things that will be verified. Yep. That's the short answer to that. Yes, you are correct, sir. You just got to catch it. You got to do the due diligence. And the nice thing with due diligence is sometimes you forget something. Like sometimes it's on your end and there's a great explanation, but you need to know things. I usually go through the bank statements and have a couple of questions, and I'll learn more things about the property. Maybe there's an expense that they didn't think to tell you about that you didn't think to ask about. That is critical. It makes total sense, but you didn't include it in your underwriting. You're going to find that in the bank statements and it's going to be corrected. So, we've seen a lot of people skip due diligence, unfortunately. Even in our mentorship group, that seems to be the thing that people want to skip because they fall in love with the deal or they get too excited. That is the way to lose the game. Like that is the fastest way to the bottom is don't read your contracts or don't do due diligence. That will, if you want to lose the real estate, that is the path to follow. Do you have any idea on the Galveston, Texas as a market? Your insurance is going to be ludicrous there because that is a hurricane. I mean, it gets rocked by hurricanes. It's just there's a lot of weather. Other than that, it's a fantastic market. The rents are high. People generally want to live there. It's a lower income area, again, because it gets hammered by hurricanes. And it's humid as all get out. That being said, growing area, people do live there, a strong rental market, but factor for absolutely insane insurance prices in a market that also it's Texas. So you're going to have like 2% property tax, 2% of the purchase price. So it's expensive for those reasons, but there's deals to be had in Galveston. I've seen them. I've underwritten them. Kevin says, can I explain how you pay back interest or how you pay back an interest-only loan? Yes. With money. That could be a refinance. It could be earned income. It could be the cash flow from the property. It could be a restructuring of the debt. It could be bringing in an equity partner. But you have to either earn or generate the money, which means the property has to perform. The goal is for the real estate to buy the real estate. What we like to do, because I love interest only, is we have a lot of interest only loans, which means I sideline all the principal I would be paying, and I pay off loans in their entirety when it's time to pay them off, which is better than an amortized loan that tells you where you have to allocate the principal pay down. I like interest only, not because I don't pay off my debts, because it leaves cash flow very high and lets me stack cash on the side so that I can pay off the notes that are most important for me to pay off, either the highest interest, the ones I can pay off in full right now, or the ones with the shortest balloon. You want to control as much money as possible, so that's exactly how to do it. From Pierre, can you do the Google Maps owner strategy in Canada? Yes, because Google exists in Canada. And hello, Cody. Welcome to the chat.
We've made it.
We've made it. Yes, you can 100% do the Google Maps owner strategy in Canada. Anywhere that Google has put a map in, you can type it in. There are public records in Canada. Now, I haven't gone through all of your county things specifically, but everywhere keeps property records. It's all public information. I do know mentees in our program who have successfully bought properties in Canada. From Noah, brief overview. Forgive me if you did this. What is your
due diligence
verification look like? So on the basic level, financial due diligence, you're going to get bank statements. You're going to get estoppel letters, which are letters from the tenants stating what their security deposit and monthly rents are. You're going to get a rent roll, which shows what the income should be, and you're going to review leases. All of those things should match. If they don't match, someone's lying. Could be the owner, could be the tenant. It's probably not the bank. So the bank statement is your backstop on all of those things. Look for those very, very, very closely. On a physical due diligence, you're going to want to go through with typically with a home inspector, unless you've done so many deals in that market that you pretty much know what you need to know. And even then, best practice, do it with an inspector nonetheless. But you're going to walk through the building. You want to look at the electric. You want to look at the water. You want to look at the roof. And you want to try to take a look at the tenants, because if you see any obvious drug activity, that can be really expensive to deal with. So you're going to want to note all those things. But on a basic level, those are the things to look out for. Did I miss anything there?
No, that's fine.
Knocked it out of the park. That's what are the typical rates you offer for seller financing. We have a lot of stuff at 5 and 6%.
Yeah, we also got some 4.25%, 4.5%. A lot of 4.5% actually.
We got a 3.
We do have a 3.
So yeah, the interest rate only matters for the deal. If there was a phenomenal deal where, say we got it at half price and it cash flowed fantastically and we could borrow at 18%, we could borrow at 18%.
We're looking at a 19-unit hotel conversion right now that might be seller financed at 10%.
Yep,
but it's for $1 million.
So it depends. With price, you can do higher terms. With a higher price, you get lower interest terms. It completely depends on the deal. That falls into the category of deal first, then debt, then equity. But if you're wondering what we usually offer, it's usually going to be between 4 and 6% on most of these deals if the pricing is around market. Let's see here. Clax, thank you for your time and patience. Absolutely, this is what we do. You can see half of both of our faces here. This is what we do, and this is one of my favorite parts of the week. I love engaging with you guys, and thank you for watching our channel. If you haven't yet, like, subscribe, and like this video so that people watch it. Raphael, if you'd start today, what would be a market that you'd be looking at or considering? Any market where you want to invest. Typically, if you're in driving distance of it, I like that better, but you don't have to do that. The main thing is population's going up. Supply and demand, what are you doing? You are providing housing for humans. So find somewhere where there's a lot of humans who want to live there, because that is going to determine your demand. Building is expensive right now. Most places in the U.S., there is not an oversupply. There are areas that have overdeveloped, and we're starting to see a little bit of that in Texas start to kick in. However, you have a lot. The main thing is, are people consistently going to keep moving here? That's the number one metric that you're going to look at.
And the last question we have time for today. Do you leave room to negotiate interest rate? We usually just come in where it works.
Yeah. If they want more interest rate and the deal stops working, then you pretty much have to work on the price, or you have to put a special clause in there. We've done some of those. Watch our video on the Hommel hack if you just need to raise rents to make it work. That's a way to do it. But generally speaking, yes, you can negotiate interest rate, but price and interest rate typically are going to be your two main levers in putting together the deal. The other thing with like the terms and the special clauses are going to be more to nuance around those. Your main things are going to be interest rate, duration of that interest rate, and the price.
And with that, we got to jump into another meeting.
Yes, we do. But fantastic seeing you all. And post your questions on the YouTube videos. We'll try to get to as many as we can. And we'll see you guys at the same time, 3 o'clock Pacific.
And before you leave, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that would be appreciated.
Yes. Oh, and an added bonus. We do have the link for our free course. So if you guys want to see like a 10-minute of exactly how we did what we did and how you can do the same, link is in, I think, every single video, including this one. But literally go to any of our YouTube videos, click the link, and take that free course. It is actually free, and you don't need to buy anything. Just streamlines everything for you a little bit better. Till later. We'll talk to you all soon.